Okay. Looks like we're live now. First time I tried this, said live streaming wasn't available right now. So, all right, well, I won't spend too much time describing what we're doing because the title kind of says it all. I think I got a problem with the microphone falling down. So we're gonna get into it. So yeah, we're gonna read, and kind of how I'm gonna do this is kind of if you've ever been to like an AA meeting, it'll be pretty familiar. Like I'm gonna read a little portion. Oh look, I guess I started this a while back because I have a Golden Revenge, Golden Ape, Dragon Ball Z card in here. So I did not make it very far. So we will continue to use this as a bookmark. So yeah, I'm gonna read a little bit and then we will I'll stop and discuss portions of it and we'll go from there. I do have it set to, just so I'm not too distracted, where comments are only for people who are subscribed to the channel, and it takes a minute. You have to be subscribed for a minute. So if you do want to get in the conversation, you will have to subscribe. Sorry. Oh, I can capture moments as they happen. So I don't know how long this is going to be. This might be 20 minutes. This might be 3 hours. So I'm going to be reading, and I'll probably jump around with book club. Like I probably won't stick to the same book if I even do this. This might be the only time I ever do this. I'm just trying it. It's an experiment. So we're going to do this and see how I like it. And if I do keep doing this, we will jump around different books, including probably fiction books. Like I'd love to do this with like a Dungeon Crawler Carl or some other lit RPG or something. So this first book I'm doing today is Revised and Expanded Edition, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, the breakthrough program for conquering anxiety, depression, obsessiveness, lack of focus, anger, and memory problems by Daniel G. Amen, MD. So this is the book. And what's interesting about it is, well, that covers me with, both the bipolar and the ADHD. So we've got, where are they? Well, the anxiety a little bit, not so much, though I have been dealing with that kind of all day today, which is leading me to be here. Depression a little bit sometimes, but not really. It's more depressive. I don't think those are exactly the same thing as depressed. Obsessiveness, I can definitely struggle with that one. Lack of focus, that's the ADHD. Anger, I've had anger issues my whole life. Probably I'm now realizing because of the bipolar. And memory problems, I don't know about memory problems. This is not going to work. So let's move it. And so, yeah, this is the book. I will start because this is the very first day. We will read the back so you get an idea of this guy and how qualified he is and kind of how cool he is. With cutting edge, easy to apply plan, Dr. Daniel Amen proves you needn't succumb to depression, anger, and other negative emotions. This must-read book provides the key to heal your brain and transform your life. Dr. Amen's Change Your Brain, Change Your Life achieves perfection in combining leading-edge brain science technology with a proven, user-friendly, definitive, and actionable roadmap to safeguard and enhance brain health and functionality. In this completely revised and updated edition of the breakthrough bestseller that sold nearly 1 million copies worldwide, you'll see scientific evidence that your anxiety, depression, anger, obsessiveness, or impulsiveness could be related to how specific structures work in your brain. You're not stuck with the brain you're born with. Renowned I have reading glasses. I should totally be using those. I don't know where they are. I think I lost them. I'll have to find those for next time. Neuropsychologist Daniel Amen, MD, includes new cutting-edge research gleaned from more than 100,000 SPECT, and I think that stands for something, it's all capital, brain scans over the last quarter century, and the latest surprising effective brain prescriptions that can help heal your brain and change your life. And then it gives a little bit of a breakdown. It says, to quell anxiety and panic, use simple breathing techniques and supplements to immediately calm inner turmoil. To fight depression, learn how to kill ants, automatic negative thoughts, and use supplements to target your brain type. to boost memory. Learn specific steps to decrease your risk for Alzheimer's disease that can help you today. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think I read something recently that there is a country where they've like reversed Alzheimer's. I don't remember. I don't think it was a pill. I think it was, maybe it was, but I think it was like because of something they do. I don't know. To conquer impulsiveness and learn to focus, learn the simple dietary strategies and supplements that can help. So unfortunately, that one's all diet related. That's annoying. To stop obsessive worrying, learn natural ways to boost serotonin. And then it goes into more about him, but big words. So, all right, let's see what's in store for us. Part 1, how imaging changes everything. Your brain, a brief primer. Introduction, the single most important lesson I've learned from looking at more than 100,000 brains. Dude literally is looking at brain scans. And then chapter 1, 12 principles to change your brain and your life. Chapter 2, stop flying blind, start feeling better. An introduction to the Amen Clinic's method. Chapter 3, assess and optimize the 4 circles of your life. Chapter 4, how imaging changes everything. Stories from the revolution, from miracles and meat cleavers to flashers, tooth fairies, and trains. I'm looking forward to that chapter. Chapter 4, what the heck is that? Chapter 5, know your important numbers. You cannot change what you do not measure. I don't know if I agree with that, because you can definitely change your weight and your muscle size, like, even the inches of your muscles without whatever. I get what you're saying though. Part 2, know and heal the brain systems that run your life. So a lot of chapters. Chapter 6, looking into love and depression, the limbic system. Chapter 7, feel better fast, limbic system prescriptions. Chapter 8, looking into anxiety and fear. That's funny because I normally say fear and anxiety, so it sounds weird to hear it the other way. The basal ganglia and more. Chapter 9, stop feeling nervous now. Does that make anyone else nervous? I feel like that's the type of statement that would make a nervous person nervous. Basal ganglia prescriptions. Chapter 10, looking into inattention and impulsivity, the prefrontal cortex. I feel like reading this book and all the terms in here is going to make me feel stupid. Like, I thought I had a good reading level, and I'm already just going through the chapters. And I already feel like I'm going to struggle to say half these words. Chapter 11, achieving total focus. Ooh, excuse me. Prefrontal cortex prescriptions. Chapter 12, looking into worry and obsessiveness, the anterior cingulate gyrus. I see it's already happening. Chapter 13, getting unstuck. I already said that one. I guess I'm stuck on that one. Chapter 14, looking into memory, temper, and mysticism, the temporal lobes. 15, boosting memory, learning, and temper control, temporal lobe prescriptions. That's probably why I bought this book. I bought this book when I was studying the brain and memorization techniques and stuff. 16, know your brain type. 7 types of ADD, 7 types of anxiety and depression, 6 types of addicts, 5 types of overeaters. That chapter sounds freaking fascinating. I want to read that chapter. 17, imaging changes everything in relationships. Understanding the brain patterns that interfere with intimacy. 18, the missing links, drugs, alcohol, head trauma. No, I've got some head trauma. I kind of wonder if that's where my bipolar comes from, is I had 4 pretty massive head injuries as a child. The missing links, drugs, alcohol, head trauma. Okay, I already read that one. Toxins, infections in the brain. Part 3, there's 3 parts. Part 3, 19, the Amen Clinic's program to explode your potential, reverse illness, and reduce your risk for Alzheimer's. Chapter 20, the Brain Warrior Diet, eat right to think right. 21, please help me. When and how to seek professional care. 22. Who is Andrew really? Questions on the essence of our humility. And then, yep, a bunch of references and stuff in the back. Preface to the new edition. Let's just dive in. Since Change Your Brain, Change Your Life was first published in 1998. You guys can't even see my face. I should put this down a little bit. 1998, so much has changed both in the field of neuroscience and at Amen clinics. Our clinical experience in diagnosing, treating, and optimizing the brain has grown exponentially. We've expanded from one local clinic serving the people in Northern California to a nationwide group of clinics treating children, teenagers, and adults from 111 countries. Our database of brain SPECT, single photon emission computed tomography, studies the primary functional brain imaging study we use at Amen clinics, has grown from about 5,000 scans in 1998 to well over 100,000 scans in 2015, making us one of the world leaders in applying brain imaging science to help people who struggle with emotional issues such as anxiety, depression, and bipolar disorder. It's funny because I bought this book before I even knew I had bipolar. I bought this for the memory stuff, so it's kind of funny. I got to chapter 2, so I read the first chapter. That was it. Behavioral challenges like addictions, weight control, or anger, cognitive problems such as brain fog or memory issues, and learning challenges, including attention deficit disorder, ADD, also called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. When Change Your Brain, Change Your Life was first written, the medical staff at Amen Clinics prescribed more psychiatric medications than we do today. Whenever feasible, we choose more natural ways to heal and support the brain, such as supplements and lifestyle interventions, nutrition, exercise, new learning, and so forth. While we still use medications when needed, and believe they save lives when used appropriately, we firmly believe, get there eventually, guys, that treatment providers should first do no harm and use the least toxic, most effective treatments. It's not uncommon that a new patient will come for their first visit. I'm in clinics on 4, 5, or 8 different medications, and unsurprisingly, they're still suffering. One child actually came to our Reston, Virginia clinic on 17 different medications. We spend more time taking people off medications than putting them on new ones. Most of our new patients have never been offered healthy lifestyle or natural supplement options before coming to see us. So that's an interesting little tidbit there, a little point there. Out of any of you guys who have any of these things, the anxiety, depression, bipolar, ADD, ADHD, all those different things, are you guys on, how many of you are on medication? I mean, you don't have to say that, obviously that's personal, but if you want to, feel free as we're interacting. I'm not on any medication, which is why I then have days like today where I'm struggling. And so I decided to just come and hang out with you guys. At the time of this writing, Amen Clinics has published more than 60 scientific studies since the first edition of this book on a wide range of topics from traumatic brain injury in professional football players to brain trauma, obesity, suicide, predicting treatment response for patients with ADHD, medications, and the impact of nutritional supplements on the brain. In 2014 alone, we published or presented 20 new studies. I will just say really quick, I didn't think about this until after I hit go live. I don't actually know the legalities of just straight reading this book. Like, I know I could like highlight and quote, and none of that's a problem. I can talk about, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. Everyone go buy a copy, okay? That way, just in case, I'm not like, no one should be like I don't really see anyone as like, oh, I don't have to buy it now because he read it, because it's going to be very start or stop, and I don't know if I'll even get through the whole book. But like, everyone go buy a copy just in case to support the author. And I'll have to look into that. I'll claim ignorance for this first one. Some of the concepts I wrote about in the original version of this book, because I'm sorry, it's only 1:45, but for whatever reason, I have been struggling all day today. And like I said, I decided to hang out with you guys. At the time of the writing, the Amen Clinics, blah, 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 published more than 60 scientific studies since the first edition of this book on a wide range of topics from traumatic brain injury. Okay, I read all that. Some other concepts I wrote about in the original version of this book have changed as our experience has expanded and new research has been published. Of course, the core belief of the original book is still as valid today as it was in 1998. You are not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better. You can change your brain in your life. You know what? I don't have my backpack here. Hold on. I need to grab a highlighter. 1 second. Pardon me. I need to grab a highlighter because some of this stuff I'm going to want to go back. Oh, I need to eat something. Now I'm like winded. I'm going to want to go back and do short form content on. So I want to be able to highlight certain things so it's easy to go back. I don't have to just chop this all up necessarily. So let's highlight that because that's a bold statement. Here it is. You are not stuck with your brain. The brain you have, you can make it better. You can change your brain and your life. Okay. Boom. Quote 1. In the last 17 years, we've developed and refined the method we use at Amen Clinics, the Amen Clinics method, which I'll explain in detail so you can benefit from it without ever stepping through the front door of one of our clinics. One of my favorite examples of how you can change your brain, change your life, is at our work with professional football players. Starting in 2009, Amen Clinics performed the first and still largest brain imaging study on active and retired NFL players. At the time when most people were ignoring the critical issue, our research demonstrated high levels of damage in players, one, which was not a big surprise. I think that's a reference, the one, which is not a big surprise. Most thoughtful 9-year-olds would probably think it's a bad idea to repeatedly hit the organ that runs your life, even with a helmet on. But what really excited us was that, I'm sorry, that was funny, that on the Amen Clinic's Brain Smart program, the same one I'll discuss in this book, 80% of our players showed significant improvement, especially in the areas of blood flow, mood, and memory. And then there's 2, because that's the reference, another reference. In 2010, Pastor Rick Warren, that's interesting, asked me and Dr. Mark Hyman, Rick Warren recently retired, to collaborate on creating a health program for Saddleback Church, which has one of the largest congregations in the world. Pastor Warren had seen me on public television talking about the dinosaur syndrome. I'm sorry, I'm covering my face again. Dinosaur syndrome, a term I coined to describe new research that reported as your weight goes up, the actual physical size and function of your brain goes down. Interesting. Big body, little brain, and you are going to become extinct if you don't get your weight under control. That got Pastor Warren's attention. Together, the 3 of us created the Daniel Plan, a revolutionary 5-step program to get the world healthy through religious organizations, faith, food, fitness, focus, and friends. I've never heard of any of this, so this is all interesting. The first week, 15,000 people signed up for our program. Over the first year, they lost over 250,000 pounds combined, more than a space shuttle weighs. Even better, does that mean the Earth got that much lighter? Participants reported better energy, focus, creativity, sleep, memory, and mood, with reductions in stress, blood pressure, blood sugar, sexual dysfunction, and many medications. The Daniel Plan is now being implemented in thousands of churches around the world, from Hong Kong to Johannesburg. Sorry, guys. Gonna have to deal with it, I guess. Malaya to San Palo. Another new feature of this edition is to focus on getting you physically healthier. I don't want you to be a dinosaur. In addition, we developed the brain warrior concept, which you'll read about throughout the book. As I work to get myself and those I serve truly healthy, it is clear to me that we are in a war for the health of our brains. Virtually everywhere we go, someone is tempting us with bad food that will kill us early, putting toxic thoughts in our minds by pushing us to watch horrific news events over and over. Or working to addict us to the latest gadgets that interfere with our relationships. To achieve the optimal mental performance, we have to have the mindset of a brain warrior. Okay, I want to get some of this. There's virtually everywhere we go, someone is tempting us with food that will kill us early, putting toxic thoughts in our minds by pushing us to watch horrific news events over and over. Take the latest gadgets and interfere with our relationships. Okay, so that's three things right there. That's three things right there. Bad food, negativity, and the distractedness and disconnectedness from gadgets. So those are like three huge topics. I do think, let me try to read this whole thing though. To achieve optimal mental performance. Okay, we read that. Over the last 17 years, I have had the opportunity to present the information in this book to millions of people. My 10 national public television specials have aired more than 80,000 times across North America. I've also been blessed to talk to medical and mental health professionals, judges, governors, or government officials around the world, including those at the National Security Agency, NSA, the National Science Foundation, NSF, Harvard Security Agency, NSA. No, National Security. Why did I say Harvard? Oh, down here. Harvard's Learning and the Brain Conference. Sorry, guys. The Department of Interior, the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges, and the Supreme Courts of Delaware, Ohio, and Wyoming. I've spoken at medical schools and participated in debates about brain imaging at national medical meetings. This edition of Change Your Brain, Change Your Life offers you the latest research and thinking at Amen Clinics to help boost your brain and the brains of those you love, which will in turn improve everything in your life and theirs. Okay, let's start back. So we have a few different things here to talk about. So the first one I highlighted is you are not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better. You can change your brain in your life. Okay, so agree or disagree? I'm interested in knowing your opinion because I know when it comes to some of the mental health stuff, there's definitely different thoughts as there were. So some are going to much more lean towards the medication side. You've got to get medicated and you're just on medication the rest of your life. And as long as you're medicated, then you can kind of help manage or whatever. Versus if you watch my channel, if you watch my stuff, you know, like I'm much more in the how can I improve? How can I like fix some of the things or work around them? And so you've heard me talk about like with bipolar, about wanting to like having, so yesterday I put out a couple of videos. One of them talking about with bipolar, like, okay, when I'm manic, I'll have multiple to-do lists. So if I'm manic, I'm going to work from this to-do list and do these kind of tasks. If I'm depressive, I have this set of to-do lists. These are things to do. And so typically it breaks down to where it's like, if I'm depressive, I'm going to study. I'm going to read, research, listen to audiobooks. If I'm manic, I'm going to work on task lists. I'm going to go down and work on all these things and get stuff done, right? And then if I'm base, I mostly just kind of do whatever I want, whatever I need. So the other thing I've been trying, and I did a video on this a little bit too, but I didn't go into this as much, but this really falls into this category of you are not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better. You can change your brain and your life. So my current kind of theory, my current thing I'm kind of operating from is not just working with them, but like I want to be able to affect them. And I want to and so I've talked about the idea of like having like, you know, these like ping pong pedals, like what's the game Pong, right? Where they keep bouncing it back. And so if my emotions are the little ball in the Atari game, if you're too young, you may not even know what I'm talking about. And where it's starting to go way over to depressive, I can move that paddle, and where normally it would have gone way and then off screen depressive, and eventually the game would have reset. Well, instead, if I can move that paddle up and boom, bounce it back, but then it's going to start going too far the other way to manic. If I can then, instead of going way off screen and eventually the game resets, if I can move that paddle up and boom, bounce it back, and I can just play this game of Pong and keep it kind of, and it keeps bringing it closer. And it's almost as if, in my opinion, in my experience, limited experience, it's as if every round, it's like the paddles are getting closer and closer together. And eventually that it's going from like this, to like this. And then it's like right there in the middle. It's just staying kind of right in the middle. And it can help keep me much closer to that spot of base. And it brings back. And I've told this story in past videos, which I'll stop referencing past videos because it gets annoying. But when it would have been 2000, so 2009, 2010, 11. So like 2012, somewhere in 2012, I believe that summer, we moved to some apartments in Oakhurst. And we moved from Oakhurst to some apartments in Clovis, and I was working on getting a business off the ground. It was called Church Loop, and I never got off the ground, but I was working to get this business started, and I was so obsessed of, like, in a good way, like so focused on getting this business off the ground. I was excited. I was motivated because I needed to make money. I was motivated because I wanted to make money. I was dreaming about all the money I was going to make and take care of my family and prove the naysayers wrong. I had a little bit of chip on my shoulder, that whole thing. And then it was fun. I was learning a ton of stuff. There was a steep learning curve, getting like a WordPress website set up and email lists and all this kind of stuff set up. And I was having a really good time with it and really enjoying it. And so I felt like it was constantly, it got me that. And this is how I figured this out, is because I feel like it got me there in that middle. Because again, if I would start to get too depressive, where it's like, wow, I don't know, there's not even a point. And I would start dreaming again, and it would pull me back. And if it would go too manic, I would be like, I got to get this done though. I can't just, like I'd have this nervous energy and I'd go for a walk. And again, I would start envisioning, a lot of it was, I was envisioning my future, like what it was going to look like, what my life was going to look like in the future when I got this stuff off the ground. I got it launched, I got the brand going. And so it would like bring me back, because this envisioning the future, envisioning like this desired outcome. And so fast forward, because then I spent years, like that was 12, even 20 by 2023, I'm still trying to recapture that. I've gone through periods of giving up on it, through periods of like, I gotta get that back. I gotta recapture that. And I couldn't recapture that. And it wasn't until very recently that I feel like I have, to an extent, not quite as much, because I'm not like, I'm still trying to figure out some of the exact vision. In fact, I recorded like a 40, it's actually uploading on YouTube right now. This is why I haven't produced so much content today, because this video it was a 45-minute video I recorded this morning, and talking about some of this and really trying to hone in still some of my vision, some of my focus. And so it's not quite like when Church Loop, where I knew exactly razor sharp what I was trying to do. I was trying to make a lot of money, and I knew how I was trying to do it, right, with this website. So, but I've gotten pretty close to finally, and I've always related to like the concept in drugs and addiction of chasing the dragon. I'm like, oh, I'm probably never going to be able to get that back, because it just, that was the first time thing, was this whole thing. And I was like, well, that's not necessarily true. I feel like I am starting to get it back as I'm getting really hyper focused on what I'm doing and getting connected to like my mission. And so I recorded this video this morning about like needing to make some pivots and just being really self-reflective. Originally, it was a video just for me that I decided to put out. So it's taken like all day to render, because I'm using CapCut on my phone. It's uploading right now. And so it should be either tonight or tomorrow, if you want to go back and see that. What did I call it? I think I called it Manic Morning, I think is what I called it, because I was feeling manic and anxious this morning. And then, which then led to me kind of crashing and feeling depressive, which has led to it's 2 o'clock and I'm just now being productive for the day. Not 100% true. I've still gotten a lot of stuff done. But the idea of you can change your brain is I don't want to be stuck in these like where, oh, I'm manic today, so therefore I can't do what I need to do. Oh, I'm depressive today, so I can't do. So can I begin to change it? Can I begin to work on it? Can I begin to do things? And my evidence is, well, I did. I did once on accident before I even knew I was bipolar. So how can I recreate that? And so that's what I've been working on since January 12th ish, give or take, is if I can be hyper focused on a goal and excited about it, um, can I focus enough to keep me, again, like those paddles, to keep me in the middle? And I think so. And that is my goal. That is my plan. And apparently this guy who's done 100,000 brain scans seems to agree that you can change your brain. So if you're one who to think, oh, I have depression, I have anxiety, I have bipolar, I have whatever, therefore I can never change. This is just who I am, and almost have adopted like a victim mentality. Much love and sympathy for you, but I disagree. And I have spent years, even before I knew I had bipolar, I knew I had some issues. Um, Being married has shown me, right? Because, just some of my issues. And I worked on them for years before I even had, and I realized the ADHD, the bipolar, that then caused some of these other things like the lack of focus, the anxiety, the paranoia, the different things, right? When I learned that about the paranoia, that set me free from so many things, because like different things like the paranoia was starting to control my life a little bit. And when I realized, oh, that I don't have to listen to that, that's a bipolar thing, which I should have known, because that's like my favorite scene in cinema, is when at the end of A Beautiful Mind, I believe it's A Beautiful Mind, where I don't remember exactly what he had. I think he's like schizophrenic, or anyways, he's delusional, and he sees people, right? It's the whole war movie, and he thinks he's like helping crack some code, some secret thing in the war effort. And at the end, they're like, "Oh, so how'd you get to how?" So it was like a little girl. There was like a military correspondence guy, and I think there was a third. I think there were three personalities that he would see and would talk to him. And at the end of the movie, they asked him, "So how did you get them to go away? How did you get?" And he said, "They didn't." And they're like, "Well, you've kind of fixed your life. You're no longer struggling." And it's like, I just stopped listening to them. I should have realized then, like over the years, I've always looked back and really resonated with that, is that like there probably was a connection to that. So that's the paranoia, where I will invent things. And I would even get upset. I'd get in fights with my wife. I would drop friendships because I would invent these plots or intent, like motivations and stuff behind things. And so really been working on this for many years and learning. So I am coming from this in my channel, my content. As of this morning, I decided I'm going to use this brand. Right now it's becoming Aquaman. Eventually it's going to change over to Iron Chapel. So yes, it's still, because I started off with like, I'm just going to document my fitness journey. And then okay, now I got certified. I'm a certified personal trainer. I'm gonna start, with this kind of stuff. And I realized that there will still be an element of that, but it's going to be a pillar. Because the whole idea was like health, right? Between mental, physical, emotional health. And it was going to focus on a lot of the mental health with like the Beneath the Plates podcast, and the physical health with the actual workouts. And I realized that a big part of this needs to be talking about the mental health stuff, but not just talking about it, exploring it from even my own perspective. And so I put out a couple of videos yesterday. And for me, this was very much something Gary Vee talks about as an example. And I talked about this in the other video. There'll be a little bit of overlap. But he tells a story about this lady who, like, I think it's hypothetical. He's like, you might have to pivot sometimes. You start doing your content, you might have to pivot. And he gave the example of a lady who's making like snacks for kids, right? How to make, like, for moms, of how to make snacks for kids. And when she realizes she has a pretty good demographic of football guys, like football fan dudes watching, like she should pivot and make some of her content for like tailgate foods and stuff like that, right? To incorporate that part of our audience, or she could just ignore it. And so I've known, and I just haven't been able to figure out how, because I've known I want to incorporate the mental health stuff in my journey of the bipolar. It was just last summer, last July, I think the end of July, that I kind of talked about it. I kind of had to. I kind of got outed by a ex-friend of mine. He was supposed to be a confidant and a friend, and he started outing me to people. Um, and so I kind of had to just come. I was going to do it anyways, but I kind of had to do it like right then because he was starting to go out. But he was spinning a much different version of it about how um, it was a whole thing, right? He was using it to cover his own tracks with some stuff he got caught in. So all that to say, I don't want to go into all that now. So I ended up having to do a video. It was really hard to do. It was me sitting on my hammock. It was like, took me forever to spit it out, to say it. Because every other time we've told someone, my wife has done it for me and I've just been there. So this is the first time I had to do this video. I posted it. And since then, I know it's my story and the things I talk about have really helped a handful of people, but I haven't really figured out how to incorporate it overall in as that message, as that content. And so I put out a couple of videos yesterday on bipolar and by being bipolar and stuff like that. And just off those two videos, the amount of comments I've gotten from people and the few videos I've got in the past, the amount of comments I've gotten from people about how helpful it was. And I was like, okay, I probably really need to go with this. And so I went out this morning and I just was kind of like, I think I need to pivot. I think that my channel needs to be less about just weightlifting and more about the overall holistic health of a person. And so now I get my pin cut my hair. Great. And so that's really what I've thought about. I've said anyways, has been like, I want it to be our body, mind, body, soul type thing where it talks about it, where I can talk about the religious side, the mental, emotional side, and the physical side. And so I just haven't really known how to do that. And so, like I said, yesterday was a bit of a moment for me. And then I really just went and did some soul searching this morning. You get to see it if you go back and watch the video. You get to see it because I recorded it for myself, but then decided to share it as well. And so just really decided to go all in and really be vulnerable and use the document versus create model and use this as I'm walking through as my, well, going back to this for again, you are not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better. You can change your brain in your life. As I'm like, I'm going to walk this out. I'm going to experiment with this. It's showing that the battery is almost dead. So I don't know if that's going to cut. I have it plugged in though. So that's kind of weird. So I don't know if this camera is going to cut off. We'll have to see. We shall see. Really going all in with that and really even exposing my own stuff. I'm going through my own and being really vulnerable. And so I'll talk more of this in that other video. If you want to go watch the video, I talk about like, the way we're trained as a pastor and how, how we're supposed to be, vulnerable in a certain way and transparent in a certain way. And so I don't know what that's going to look like because it's definitely going to go against the mold there. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, so this is really my premise is you can change your brain and doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do I'm not saying you're going to do a bunch of push-ups and get on a diet and your depression, your bipolar, all these things are going to go away. But I do think it helps. And it's interesting that I had a stack of 3 books. I just picked this one to start with. And so it's interesting that that's what he's talking about in this. And so we're going to be exploring this. And this is kind of my journey. And rather than coming to you guys as here's what you should do, I'm an expert on this stuff. Really with the idea of here's what's working for me does not necessarily mean it's going to work for you. So for example, I'm not on any kind of medication. That does not mean, hey, I follow this guy and I really love his stuff. I'm going to go cancel my medications. Don't go talk to your doctor. That's not like, right. So this is what is working for me. And maybe it can help or inspire, but don't necessarily just run out and copy everything I do. I'm not a doctor. I have some qualifications, but and so we're going to go through this book together and I'm going to share my journey, document my journey, and hopefully build a community. I mean, that's really what I want to do is I really want to, if I'm going to go all in on this, I want to help people. I want this to make a difference. And so I'm a big believer as a Christian. I'm a big believer that if you go through something difficult, the Lord will allow, well, sometimes it's just because you're stupid and you you open yourself up to things, right? Like you can't be mad. So I have a fence over there, and I have a regular gate, and then I have this really big like double, like you can drive a car in, right? And if I leave that open, deer will come into my yard, and they drive me crazy because for a lot of reasons. And they at one point busted up the fence and all this kind of, because they're too stupid to get back out, and so they've like all kinds of stuff. But that's my fault, right? I can't blame someone for those deer getting in other than me for leaving the gate open. So there are times that you just leave yourself open to things. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like certain things. You're like, Lord, like, why would you have let me go through that? Job, there's different people. Joseph, a lot of his stuff. It can be someone who's lost a child. There's certain things. It's like, why would you have let me go through that? And I'm a big believer in a lot of things that we go through that we have the opportunity to resent and be mad at God about, for why did I have to go through that? Why did that ever happen to me? We go through that so we can then help others going through those same things. And then we begin to get a calling. So for example, the person who loses a child, a lot of times they will then help others who go through that same grief and hardship. And so for me, if I'm realizing, oh, I have bipolar, I have ADHD, and because of that I have these other symptoms, the paranoia, the anxiety, the different things, the lack of focus, I then have a responsibility as I figure some of this stuff out to help others as well. And so that is kind of what I'm gonna build this brand, or I don't even like the term brand, we'll say this community, because I want to build a community off as of this morning. I think I've really, some of this is locked in, off of helping and working with that and giving hope and motivation. I had made a comment in one of those videos that my goal is to take bipolar from being the curse and the reason, like the victim reason of why I'm a victim and why it could never work, instead it to be like my superpower, where people will actually be like, well, that's not fair. He had bipolar, so of course he got, right? No, I don't think anyone's ever said that before. My goal is to make them say it, to make it be my power. Also to work on some of these things and change some of these things, and be able to not let bipolar be the reason why I couldn't accomplish what I felt like God put in my heart and put me on this earth to do, but it's just the method I've had to go through. So I say a lot, the things that happen in your life can be your excuse or be your obstacle. And if it's your excuse, you are choosing the victim mentality. If it's your obstacle, it's just a really crappy hand that you had to start with, but you can still win. You can still win the hand. You have to then work the deck, work the other players. That sounds bad in terms of manipulating, but you know what I mean? And you can still, starting off with a crappy hand, if you learn the game, you can still end up doing well. Like phase 10 is a great example of that. You can start off like, oh my gosh, I'm so far from going down and out, but which is a good thing in phase 10. You want to go down, and you definitely want to go down and out, but you at least want to go down so you don't get as many points, and you want to go out so you win the round. Like you can start off with a terrible hand so far away from what you need, and you could still win by playing the game. And so I wanted to be able to encourage and equip others into how to play, and go from like, I'm not even close, I'm not going to be able to go down at all, to at least being able to go down, which you would consider like a baseline of success. And those who want to go down and out, which I would say as like achieving your goals and really making an impact on this world, to be able to help with that. So that is my goal, and that is what I'm shifting this kind of over to. So I wonder if it's time to shift over to Iron Chapel and really make that, I don't know, I'll have to think about that. But yeah, that's the idea behind this. And so that's that first one is, and that's the premise, is you are not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better. You can change your brain in your life. And I believe that. And that's, I'm going to be experimenting with, and hopefully I can help others as well. And then this is a big part of how, these three are a big part of how I will be doing that and the kind of content we'll be using. So it says virtually everywhere you go, someone's tempting us with bad food that will kill us early. So that's the first one. That's going to be the physical side. That's the becoming Aquaman side I've been focusing on. The health, the exercise and diet of health. I used to be 330 pounds. I'm now 230 something pounds, right? I was 239 this morning. So I was 360. I used to be 360 some odd pounds. And now I'm down in the 230s, basically 240. It was like 239.4, but still it's over 100 pounds. I feel so much better. There's so many different things. Like there's a lot that's going on that has improved the quality of my life and improved my health through diet, getting rid of inflammation, getting rid of like different things. And so that's a big one. That's going to be one of the pillars. I love that this book is so lined up. This is like so providential. The second one says putting toxic thoughts in our minds by pushing us to watch horrific news events over and over. And so that one that's the positivity side. That's the hey, you're having a great day videos to encourage, but then also the hey, here's how to have a great day. Here's how to work. That's that self-improvement, self-help type stuff that I like my content I like to do. So there's the fitness stuff, there's the self-improvement stuff, and then this last one says working to addict us to the latest gadgets that interfere with our relationships. That falls more into, I think, the really more that spiritual side. It's a little bit looser of a connection there, but a little bit more that spiritual side of talking about our connections with others, with each other, with God, with the planet we're on, that spirituality side. And so if we break it down to, I just preached this on Sunday about where, our bodies, our souls, and our spirits, and how we're those three things. We're our eternal part of us, we are our mind emotion part of us, and we're our physical part of us. And so that's going to be the focus on this channel, is my journey / being able to help others as well and build a community around that. So I'm going to be super open and vulnerable with my experience, but then at the same time, also trying to help a little bit, encourage, teach, that kind of stuff as I'm going on this journey as well. And so that way people can come in the community and be helped out as well. Some of my qualifications. Well, first off, I'm willing. That's my main qualification. I'm willing to expose myself, as it were, put my thoughts, my fears, my hopes, my dreams out there, and to be able to, like this morning when I was feeling super manic, to be able to just talk about some stuff, and I was feeling anxious. And then now this evening, as I was getting a little more towards depressive, and I was struggling, I could, to create my little short videos I normally do, to this, let me just go live and talk, in that little bit of a different format, and go through different things and do check-ins and talk about the different things and the struggles and the whatnot. So that's the number one thing, I think. Well, really the number one is the fact that I care. Like, I care enough to do it. I care about you. And to build that community. And then the fact that I'm willing to do something about it. So that right there, those two together, that's like the number one. I am a pastor. I've been a pastor for like 20 something years. I don't know, a very long time. I was a youth pastor forever. I've only been a pastor for, it's confusing because I've been a pastor for 3 years, but out of those 3 years, for 2.5 of them, I've been pastoring 2 churches. So do you double it because I've got double the experience? Do you not? I don't know. So I actually, my last church, for 6 months, I promoted out. I wasn't the youth pastor. I was a discipleship pastor. And then now I've been senior pastor here for 3 years. But again, 2 churches. So I'm in Ely and Round Mountain, pastoring 2 rural churches and 2 different communities. And I've pastored several hundred people in the 3 years since I've been here. And so there's that. I'm also a chaplain. So I'm endorsed as a chaplain. So same where I'm licensed as a minister, I'm also endorsed as a chaplain and trained in rural church chaplaincy. I am a mental health expert. That sounds so stupid to say, but I have gone through the coursework and gotten the training, and am a mental health expert. And then on the physical side, not only I've been working out off and on most of my life. I talked about I've lost 100 pounds, and I also am a certified personal trainer. So I'm a husband. I've been married for over 20 years. My only marriage, which that alone is, like, for someone with bipolar, is super impressive from what I've been told. And then I have 3 kids. They're all doing well. The youngest is 10. And then the oldest, I don't know why I say 7. My oldest, I still think my oldest is 7, but she is 18. And then I have a just turned 15 in the middle there. So my oldest just moved out a few months ago. I kind of documented some of that in my podcast, Beneath the Plates, and some of the struggles with dealing with her moving out. So that's a little bit about me. And yeah, I put out, 3 to 7 on average pieces of content every single day on different subjects, but a lot of it on this, and we'll be doing this increasingly on here. And as I grow in my confidence, I'm doing this on YouTube right now just because I know I don't have much of an audience on there. As I grow in confidence, I will be streaming these to other places, including Facebook, which I'm the most terrified of. So sometimes if I'm really unsure about the content, I will not post it on Facebook because that's where everyone who knows me sees everything. So yeah, I think that's a good introduction. Between that 45-minute video I did this morning while manic, and then this video, which is 50 minutes while depressive. Though I do feel like anytime I record content, I do feel like it pushes me out of whatever I'm in. So this morning I was anxious and manic. It pulled me out of that, but then unfortunately I did then crash to depressive. Probably should have just taken a nap. But then now recording this, I started this depressive and like, what's the point? I don't want to do it. I'm just going to do it because I just need to do it. And if nothing matters, then if I go and go live and it sucks, then it doesn't matter because nothing matters. Where I'm now feeling much more pushed back towards base. And so this kind of goes back to like my hypothesis. So I don't know, maybe I just need to be disciplined in my workouts because those also help me out a lot, and my content creation every day, which is hard because discipline is the number one thing and consistency is the number one thing I struggle with. So in the future, I see these being longer as I get into these. I do need to wrap up and whatnot, but I do see these being longer. Maybe we'll come up with a specific time where we go live and go through this stuff. I would like to do these as much as possible. And I do, like I said, I really want to build that community aspect. So I love the idea of these even being 2-3 hours long, bringing in guests or, answering questions, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully this will grow in the future. This is just the first one that I wanted to get going. I don't know. Maybe I just keep going? Should I just keep going? I guess I don't have to stop. We could go into the first chapter and start talking about your brain. Oh, it's not even the first chapter. It's that, and then there's an introduction. Okay, so the introduction is kind of long. It shows a lot of pictures of brains. A lot of pictures. So definitely get the book. And then it goes in chapter 1. Well, I don't know. It's only 2:23. It's not. I was thinking it was later. So I don't know. Let's keep going a little bit. I'm enjoying myself. I was just running out of things to say, but we can always. I forgot this is a book club. We jump back to the book. All right. So this is Your Brain, a brief primer. Your brain is the most amazing organ in the universe. Why, thank you. It is the organ responsible for learning, strategizing, loving, creating, and behaving. As such, it's important to know about it, love it, and maybe even be a bit obsessed with it. The human brain typically weighs about 3 pounds, and it is the consistency of soft butter. That's super weird. It is housed in a really hard skull that has multiple sharp, bony ridges. You're kind of freaking me out here, man. Like, this is not making me feel good. Therefore, it might not surprise you to learn that your brain was not designed to be inside a cranium that hits soccer balls or in a ring with a mixed martial artist who wants to pound it senseless against the canvas. The brain is an integrated whole, a symphony of parts that work together to create and sustain life. Specific parts of the brain are designed to do certain things, but its functions are rarely simple. With that in mind, some generalizations can help you learn about your brain. The largest structure in the human brain is the cerebral cortex, the wrinkly walnut-shaped mass that sits atop and covers the rest of the brain. Cerebral cortex has 4 main areas, or lobes, on each side of the brain: frontal, temporal, perineal, and occipital. The frontal lobes consist of the motor cortex, which is in charge of directing movement. The premotor cortex, which helps to plan movement, and the prefrontal cortex, PFC, which is considered the executive part of the brain. A PFC is the most evolved part of the human brain and is involved with focus, forethought, judgment, organization, planning, impulse control, empathy, and learning from mistakes. It makes up about 30% of the human brain, compared with just 11% for chimpanzees, 7% for dogs, 3% for cats, perhaps why they need 9 lives, and 1% for mice, which is why they are eaten by cats. Deep in your frontal lobes is the anterior cingulate gyrus. Oh, I couldn't read that last time either. ACG. We'll just go with ACG. It's much easier. A structure involved with error detection and shifting attention. The temporal lobes, located underneath your temples and behind your eyes, are involved in mood stability, emotional reactions, temper control, learning, moving memories into long-term storage, and auditory processing. The temporal lobes have been called the what pathway because they name what things are. The pituitary globes at the top, side, and back of the brain are the centers for sensory processing, touch, perception, and sense of direction, called the where pathway, because they help us know where things are in space. They are involved in manipulating numbers, dressing, and grooming. The occipital lobes at the back of the cortex are concerned primarily with vision and visual processing. Sitting underneath the cerebral cortex is the limbic or emotional system, the part of the brain that colors our emotions and is involved with bonding, nesting, feeding, sexuality, and emotions. Also underneath the cortex are structures called the basal ganglia, involved with motivation, pleasure, and smoothing motor movements. The cerebellum at the back of the brain, I'm sorry, let me say that again. I got distracted. The cerebellum at the back bottom part of the brain is involved with motor and thought coordination. It is essential for processing complex information. Cortex is divided into 2 hemispheres, left and right. While the 2 sides significantly overlap in function, the left side is right-handed people. Okay, we're going to take a quick pause. I'm struggling to even read there. I wanted something. So my wife and I are both reading this book about bipolar. And I think it's called Bipolar Not So Much. And she's a little bit ahead than I am. And she was just telling me that she just read something that was really interesting. We're talking about the brain here, is that the part of the brain, and so I'm sure I just read which part it is, the part of the brain that identifies and interprets facial expressions can get messed up in people with bipolar. So she starts to tell me that our entire marriage, I will like walk into a room and ask her like what? Like what's wrong? Or why are you mad? Or like something like that. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you made a face. Like when I walked through, like your facial expression, like you're upset, like what's wrong? Or I'll say and so she said she struggled throughout our marriage because what were the phases she said? She said at first, I don't remember what the first, like if she thought she was crazy or if I was crazy or whatever it was, like I was crazy or, oh no, she thought I was just trying to pick a fight because I had a reputation for liking to fight and getting into arguments. So she thought I was just trying to pick a fight. Like that. It's not that I actually thought, I would just say that as a way to start a fight. And so she's like, I'm just going to kind of ignore that. And then she said, as time went on, she thought maybe I was trying to gaslight her in our early marriage. And she's like, who is this crazy person I married who is now trying to gaslight me into things to think something else? And then once with the bipolar stuff, she realized it was that. But now she's realized it's actually a thing that apparently apparently, like, I literally misread facial expressions, which really sucks because I've been a salesman and I've in ministry, like that's a core function is needing to be able to read body language and be able to read facial expressions. But it also makes sense because throughout my childhood, I've definitely have misfired on this quite a bit. I can definitely see how this has led to some awkward social interactions and it makes sense. But yeah, it also really sucks because as a pastor, like I do a lot of one-on-one talking. I need to be able to understand what the person like by looking like what they're expressing or they're thinking and to know that like that is messed up for me. I feel like it's kind of messed up. So she told me this. I probably didn't respond the best. I kind of downplayed it and then I made fun of it a couple days later because it sucked. It sucked to learn that like one of the main skills I rely on is faulty. And one more, going back to like bipolar as being the curse of why someone bipolar can never be, successful. Now I'm trying to work through this. That's like one more reason because like of course I couldn't make it as a salesman. Of course I struggled. I direct TV, I washed out of that. Car salesman. I did that for a year and only by jumping from, place to place and department to department. And I was miserable at that. I couldn't sell cars. I couldn't, I didn't do a good job. Like, of course I was bad at these things. I can't, or at least I don't know if it's all the time or if it's just some of the time, but I can't consistently read facial expressions. That really sucks. So there we go. That's why I wasn't able to be more successful at sales. And then I can even think back to I was in a group. I'm sitting here, I can think back to so many things. Like I had a show. It was a Google Hangout, but we kind of then made it into a YouTube show with a couple buddies, one in particular, Mike Doyle. And we did this for well over a year. We did however many episodes. And I used to frustrate him because I think it was this, is I wasn't responding how he thought was appropriate. And so I wonder if it goes both ways. I wonder if it also has to do with like my expressions as well, or if it's just reading other people's expressions. And so I would struggle sometimes, and sometimes I click with someone and it's going really well, probably because I'm freaking base and I'm a normal human at that point. But the times when I would struggle in the interviews and he would feel like he was having to carry so much of the interview is probably because I was not reading them correctly. And so I couldn't connect with them. And this is making so much of like my past failures and frustrations make more sense. Man, the amount of times I'll be like, yeah, it was really weird. I felt like they, I wasn't connecting with them or I was getting a weird vibe from them. There's a very good chance that, oh, well, that camera dish died. So hold on, let me swap out batteries really quick. Oh, quick pause. Wait, do I have? Oh yeah, batteries right here. I have it plugged in, so I didn't. So I must have just slowed down. I must have been pulling too much power still. Oh, there she blows. Sorry for terrifying you with my rock face pillow. I don't know how zoomed in I had this before. Dang it, go back. There we go. Yeah, I don't think it's too much. I'm just gonna do this. We're just gonna adjust the camera because I actually like it a little bit more zoomed in for the second half of this. Yeah. So yeah, as I was saying, be like, yeah. So I'm wondering now if that weird vibe was just it's the bipolar misfiring. In fact, I just had this happen recently with a job interview, where the first time I went and talked, it like went really well and really connected with the person, and the second time I went in, it didn't seem to go very well. I was like, oh, okay, I don't think I got it. I started making other plans, and then the next time I went in, just not even for just when it was the gym. And so I went in, I talked to the lady, I was like, hey, I'm working on my personal certification. We talked and we went over things. She's like, oh, and you'd be great here because of multiple reasons. We'd love to have you. I'll talk to my boss. We'll figure some stuff out. And then she's like, but you got to get your training first. So I like busted my butt. I was putting in like 10-hour days getting through all the stuff because I was about halfway through the certified personal trainer training. And I literally went home that day. It was like I went and saw her at noon. I came back. The rest of my day, I cleared my schedule. That's all I did for the rest of the day. And for like the next like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it was, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, while I'm here in the office, that's like all I did all day long. I was like bleeding out my eyeballs to get the certification done. I go back in to talk to her, to tell her, and all of a sudden she's like, doesn't seem to care. She's like, seems like she's annoyed to talk to me. And I'm like, oh, she must have talked to the boss. And for some reason, and then it works with the paranoia. For some reason, they don't actually want to hire me. And so she's kind of blowing me off. And so I was like, okay, well, that didn't go very well. And then I didn't hear from them. So I'm like, oh yeah, so it's for sure. And so I actually was like, well, I'm going to do my own personal training then. And I'll get an LLC. I'll get the insurance I need to get, and I'll just do my own personal training. I still want to do it. It'd been cool to do it through, the actual local Anytime Fitness. But whatever, if they don't want me, that's fine. I'll just do it on my own. And then I go in a few weeks later, and she's like, oh my gosh, we've been trying to get a hold of you. We have your old number. And so I couldn't get a hold of you. And so I've been waiting. She's like, I know your wife comes in here and works out and uses, the tanning bed and whatnot. So like, thank God you finally came in. We want to hire you. And then went through. I was like, oh. And so I'm realizing now, I'm like, oh, I must have just misread that situation. I'm realizing now, like, yeah, it's actually like part of the bipolar. So as this is talking about the different parts of the brain that do different functions, I totally missed that one. So, okay, let's jump back in. The cortex is divided into two hemispheres, left and right. While the two sides significantly overlap in function, the left side is right-handed people. Left side in right-handed people. I don't know why I was saying is. The left side in right-handed people is generally the seat of language and tends to be the analytical, logical, detailed-oriented part of the brain, while the right hemisphere sees the big picture and is likely involved more with hunches and intuition. It is often opposite in left-handed people. I did not know that. Information from the world enters your brain through your limbic or emotional system, where it tags the information as meaningful, safe, or dangerous. Then it travels to the back part of the brain, temporal, percipital, and occipital lobes. Wait, what was the other word? Percipital and occipital lobes, where it is initially processed and compared with past experience, and then to the front part of the brain for you to consider and then act on it. The transmission of information from the outside world to your conscious awareness in the front part of your brain happens almost instantaneously. Okay, so that is finishing that part up. And then we go into this introduction, which I don't know if I want to read because there's a lot of images and stuff. So I might read this. I just read this and then summarize it for you guys. Also, I realized I haven't really tested to see, like, I'm not recording a backup. And so if for some reason this is not great quality, then I'm doing all this without having a good backup of it to be able to put in. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it off there. We are at 1 hour and 10 minutes. And so like I said, I do want to grow these. I want to do these long in the future. I want to do have book club as a whole series where we don't even wait to get through the whole book. Like maybe like Tuesdays and Thursdays we do this book, but then like Mondays and Wednesdays I do a different book or something like that. I occasionally do want to do just a fun one, again, just for the community building aspect of like, let's do a dungeon crawler Carl or something. That one's highly inappropriate, but maybe not. We'll see. To do some stuff like that. And then I probably add in like a Bible study at some point, like a weekly chapel service where we actually go through and do a Bible. I don't know. We'll see as I build out this brand. Because I really just now that is the focus is it's not really a brand, it's community. I want to build out this Iron Chapel community. So I will probably be pretty soon updating the channel from Becoming Aquaman, which was about my journey of losing weight and growing out my hair to look like Aquaman. Not literally, but that was like the motivation, right? And then the inspiration or whatever to the actual Iron Chapel brand. I really struggle to call myself the Iron Chaplain, even though I am certified. I am a chaplain, all the different things. But yeah, so with that, I will be working on that, but really to build out this community. So I'm going to log off with that. And in the future, we will just continue these and see how they go, as well as, you can enjoy all the short form and all the other content I do as well. And we'll really work on the balance of those three pillars that we talked about. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next time.